Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to Man Cave Meals. For this video, we are going to make some artisan style sourdough bread loaves, and we're going to cook them on the Yoder YS640 pellet grill. So let's get started. Okay, we are going to get started on our sourdough bread here, and if you want to make this recipe and not use sourdough, you're going to start out here with 1/2 of 1/8 of a teaspoon of active dry yeast. You'll use that in the place of this, and I am starting out here with 30 grams of sourdough starter that is really ripe. It's been about 18 hours since I fed the starter, so that's about where you want this starter to be on the activity level. And what we're going to do today, this is the first part of a 2-day process. We are going to make our pre-ferment, or our Poolish, for this. And basically what we're doing here is I'm taking 30 grams of the starter. I'm going to add 240 grams of water that is about 85 degrees or so, and then I'm just going to mix that together. And after that is completely mixed, I'm going to add 240 grams of flour. And the flour I'm using here during this pre-ferment is 200 grams of all-purpose flour and 40 grams of whole wheat flour. And I'm just going to use my spoon, and we're going to get that completely mixed. And this is what that's going to look like in the beginning, and that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit for 12 to 16 hours covered. And for your time frame, I'm planning to cook this bread on Wednesday night, which is roughly 24 hours away. So this is more of a 24-hour process, but it needs to happen over 2 days. So it is currently 6 p.m. my time, and I plan to let this go for 14 hours. I'm going to look at it again at 8 a.m. in the morning when we come back to do the next step. Okay, here we are about 7:30 in the morning, and we'll have a look at this Poolish, and you can see this guy's puffed up nicely. And that's exactly what we wanted. What we're doing here is building a really healthy yeast colony. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start working on our final dough. So what I'm going to do is transfer this Poolish over to a little bit larger dough tub. And to that, I'm going to add 480 grams of water that's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to mix that up completely. And to that, I'm going to add 720 grams of flour that I have mixed in 24 grams of salt. And then we're going to mix that together. And I'm just going to start out with a spatula here to get this started combining. And then as that starts to come together, I'm just going to get in there with my hand and mix that together and get it completely combined. And then when I've got that completely combined, I'm just going to let it sit here with a cover on it for 30 minutes before we come back to the next step. Okay, after we've let that sit for 30 minutes, we're going to fold this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to reach in and grab it and pull it up and fold it over itself. And then we're going to turn the bucket a quarter of a turn, do it again, and keep turning the bucket and fold it over itself. And we're going to give it about 10 folds. And after we do this, we're going to cover it back up and let it sit for another 30 minutes. And we're going to repeat this process 3 more times at 30-minute intervals. And after we finish the fold, we're just going to cover it back up. And like I said, 30 more minutes, 3 more times. Okay, I'm coming up here on my last fold, so I'm going to wet my hands. We're going to pull this and fold it over itself several more times, just like we did in the beginning. And this is my 4th round of this, and I've been doing it at 30-minute intervals. So we're just going to fold it over itself a few more times here. And then I'm going to cover this up, and we're going to let it go 3 to 4 hours and let this dough double up in size. And for your time frame reference now, we are at approximately 9 a.m. So we're going to cover that up and let it rise. Okay, we've been going about 4.5 hours here now. It is 1:30 and our bulk rise here I believe is about done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and we're going to roll this dough out onto a floured work surface. And the first thing I want to do here is flour my hands and get a little flour on the top of this. I got to bring this together. This is a sticky dough, so we're going to separate it into 2 parts since we're making 2 loaves. So I'm going to use my bench knife and cut this into 2 rather equal pieces. And then we're going to form both of these into some nice loaves. And the best way I've found to do this is just pull it towards you and slide it on the pastry mat. What our objective is to form a nice tight skin across the top. Just about like that. And then we're going to take that and put it skin side down in my proofing basket that I have lined the proofing basket with rice flour. So it's going to go right in just like that. I'm going to do the same thing to the other loaf. We'll plop that one right in there, skin side down as well. And I'm going to cover these with a towel and we're going to let those proof probably for 3 to 4 hours. Now that I have these covered and proofing, there's a couple other things I'd like to mention at this point. You have some options here. You don't have to do this in these proofing baskets like I've done. I just prefer that myself. You can do this in a loaf pan, and if you do this in a loaf pan, what you're going to want to do is kind of use maybe some canola oil or something and spray across the top of it and then cover it with plastic wrap and let it proof covered in plastic wrap. If you're going to use these proofing baskets, you can also really bring a new flavor to the bread. If you take these proofing baskets and put them in a plastic bag, you can put these in the refrigerator for 12 to 72 hours. And after 12 hours, you can pull these out and cook them at any point but in that 12 to 72 hour period. And the longer this bread ferments like that, the deeper the flavor gets. So you have that option. So keep that in mind, and like I said, we're going to come back in a little bit to have a look at this, and I'll show you how to do a poke test on this to tell when the proofing's been done. Okay, we've been going here for almost 3 hours, and I want to give this a poke test. I'm going to dip my finger in some flour, and we're just going to poke into the dough. And what we're looking for here is snapback, and if it comes back quickly, it's not quite proofed yet. If it comes back really slowly but comes back all the way, it's right on the money. And if it doesn't come back at all, it's overproofed. This one looks like it's getting close. It's not quite there yet, but it's probably going to be another hour. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to get the grill preheated. So I'm going to fire up the Yoder and get it stable at 475 degrees. Okay, we've been going about 3 hours and 15 minutes, and this dough is ready. So I'm going to take that extra loaf. We're going to cook it second, but I'm going to show you how we're going to get this out of the proofing basket. What I like to do is I take my pizza peel and I just lay a piece of parchment paper over the top of it. We're going to flip it right down on this basket, and then we're going to grab the basket and just flip it right over just like that, and lift that bad boy right off of there. So this guy's ready to go to the grill. So I'm going to take the lamb and we're going to give this guy a cut right across the top, just like that. And I'll meet you at the grill. Okay, I've got the Yoder here cranking at 475. So we're going to open it up. I've got a little water pan back in there to help create a little steam. So we're going to load this guy right off the pizza peel onto our baking steel, and we're going to cook for probably about 40 minutes, and we're going to come back and have a loaf at it after 20. Okay guys, we're about 20 minutes in, so we're going to peek this open here. I'm going to go ahead and yank that piece of parchment paper out of there. And we'll let this bad boy keep cooking right on the stone there, and we'll probably go another 20 minutes or so. Okay guys, we've been going right at 40 minutes, so this loaf is ready. I'm going to pull it off. We're going to take it inside and let it cool. Okay guys, we've got a couple of really nice looking loaves of bread here. These came out really well. I let them cool. I sliced them. I've got a really nice crumb here. We're going to taste it in just a second. The only problem I have on these loaves, and I'm going to chalk this one up to new equipment with the Yoder. I've not gotten the hang of it just yet, but I'm a little bit darker on the bottom than I'm used to. Not a whole lot, but just a little. The texture and everything else on this bread looks fantastic. So let's have a taste. Okay guys, I'm going to tear off a piece of this and let's just have a taste. It's still slightly warm. It's not completely cooled. Perfect. You gotta love sourdough, especially after you put the time and effort into culturing your own yeast. Makes beautiful bread. The sourdough is just phenomenal for a lot of things, so give this a try. Or if you got any tips for me, let me know. Until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.